Welcome back, Ronin Renegades. I am Lupine Fiasco, this is Daily FaB gameplay, and today's game will be played against Arakni. For anyone who is new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review replays of games that I have played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will walk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, while explaining my thought process for the lines that I take, and comparing that to what I did at the time this game was recorded. We will either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns. The goal of all this is to tighten and optimize our play in the future, take down paper events like Road to Nationals and ProQuests, and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. Without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and our game plan. Today's game features my Switchblade list. If you would like to check that list out on FaB or try it for yourself on Talishar, the deck link is available in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best way to support me and to make sure you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. I am excited to bring you the first Arakni game on my channel. I don't run into them very often, and when I do, sometimes the games aren't good enough to share. This game was, and that's great. We lose the die roll, we are going to go first. Overall, this matchup is pretty similar to Uzuri in how we are setting it up. We are going to board out our Kodachis and our Mask of Momentum in place of our Emberblade and our Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. And we are also going to cut our Flamescale Furnace to bring in Fiendal's Spring Tunic. Arakni, like Uzuri, is comfortable playing on 2 or even 1 card hands. Their equipment also buys itself back if Arakni is generating enough silver. And because we are expecting every Arakni to be playing a contract-heavy fatigue list, presumably they will be generating a lot of silver over the course of a long game. Now, why do I think that every Arakni is on a contract-heavy fatigue list? Because if Arakni was playing a more aggressively slanted redline list, they would just play Uzuri. If someone is purposely playing Arakni, I am assuming that they want to play a long game where they manipulate the top of our deck, do banishing and fatigue things, and ultimately look to deck us out. Because Arakni does so much blocking, we are never expecting to trigger Mask of Momentum, so we bring in our Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, which only needs to hit once in a turn to generate its value. We are bringing in our Emberblade to play around Frailty, as in Frailty Trap, Death Touch, and Codex of Frailty, just at a minimum. Because we don't want to do any blocking over what we are expecting to be a very long game, we are going to bring our Fiendal's Spring Tunic, assuming that we will get 2, 3, or even 4 activations out of it. And because Assassin doesn't deal arcane damage, we don't need to think about our Spell Void or our Arcane Barrier. Against Arakni, assuming that they will be trying to fatigue us, we are going to bring in every card in our deck, going up to a full 69. The reasoning is we are expecting to be able to play efficient turn cycles really regardless of what we draw. There may be some clunky hands where we draw a Reinforce the Line, a Sink Below, a Snatch, and a Double Strike, just to pick something off the top of my head. But even that hand is playable because we can block with our defense reactions. In general, we don't want to arsenal anything. Arakni plays Command and Conquer and Leave No Witnesses, so we want to really take the bite out of those attacks by not giving them something in our arsenal to destroy. But with us bringing in these 6 defense reactions, we are happy to arsenal those because we can then react to the arsenal disruption. The only other card that I am excited to arsenal in this matchup is Art of War, to set up for a big 5-card Art of War hand fueled by our Fiendel Spring Tunic. But even then, I only really want to arsenal the Art of War when I have Tunic available. So if my Arakni plays Leave No Witnesses or Command and Conquer, I can react to that with the Spring Tunic to play the Art of War to get my 5-card hand, even if I'm not getting the bonus power from Art of War. Our game plan here is just to hit Arakni real hard until they die, counting on the efficiency of our 4-card hands to do more damage than what Arakni can do with their 4-card hands. And because we aren't blocking and we aren't putting anything in our arsenal, we are turning off a lot of the power from Arakni's best cards or from Shred. With all that said, this is the first time I am featuring Arakni on this channel. It will be easier to see what I am talking about if we jump into the game and see how this all comes together. Our Phoenix Flame goes into discard, and we can get our first look at what Arakni is trying to do to us. And we see that Arakni also brought in more than 60 cards. They have a 68-card deck. They have 4 pieces of equipment that all block 1 and can all be bought back with silver. So I feel very good about my decision to fat stack the deck and play against a fatigue strategy. Looking at what is in our hand, we can play out the entire hand. Rising Resentment, pitch our blue Brand with Cinderclaw to Searing Emberblade, then pick up and play a Phoenix Flame, and finally end the turn with Command and Conquer. Since playing this game, I have had some more experience against Uzuri and against a very good Uzuri player who suggested that my plan going into this matchup should be to arsenal a card on turn 1 when I am forced to go first. In this case, I can play out this entire hand and I can get a decent amount of value from it. But by arsenaling a card, I can potentially take tempo back from the assassin if they can't disrupt my arsenal on turn 2. And because the assassin is going to block with their entire hand, it isn't like I'm losing value by arsenaling a card instead of attacking with it. So keeping all of that in mind, I believe the best line here may be Rising Resentment, pitch the blue to Searing Emberblade, pay 1 to 5 for Phoenix Flame, then Phoenix Flame for 1, and finally Brand with Cinderclaw for 3 with the Shuko effect, and arsenal the Command and Conquer. Now, I don't know for a fact that is correct, but I believe that is the best line. The alternate line here, as I described, will play out the entire hand and potentially deal more damage to Arakni, but does not set us up for our second turn. That said, we are going to play it out as described. Having rewatched this game recently, I know that I do not arsenal a card. We'll see whether Arakni chooses to block this Phoenix Flame. They do block with the boots, so we are maybe kind of getting life out of this turn 1. But for the most part, Arakni just blocks out entirely, and you can really see the benefit of arsenaling a card on turn 1. This Command and Conquer did actual nothing this game, and if we had instead attacked with the yellow Brand with Cinderclaw and arsenaled the Command and Conquer, maybe we get a bigger second turn. But as it is, we are at least now resilient to Leave No Witnesses or Command and Conquer. We don't want to block anything, so we just won't. And this hand is fine. It isn't ideal. we will be able to use this sink below this turn. On our turn, we can pitch this Soulbead Strike to FaB to pick up and play Phoenix Flame. Using our Shuko, we can sequence the turn such that Double Strike then gives Phoenix Flame 1 point of power, Double Strike comes in for a second point of damage, then Lava Burst comes in for 5. A 3-card 8 is below rate, but what can you do? Here, Arakni plays Eradicate. We are happy to play our sink below, but we are going to, of course, wait, hope that Arakni uses the Black Tech Whisperers, which they do. Now we play our sink below and punish Arakni for playing so aggressively. What we should do here is sink nothing. What we are going to do instead is sink the Lava Burst, and I believe my thought process here was if we draw into a Ronin Renegade or similar zero-cost go-again Draconic attack, then the power of our turn goes up. We play the Ronin Renegade, pitch to the Emberblade, pay for FaB to play out Phoenix Flame, then attack with Double Strike. Overall, that is a 10-point turn rather than the 8-point turn we had. But the problem with that is if we don't draw a head jab, the power of our turn kind of goes down in a big way. At this point, we don't have a ton of options for our turn. We are going to deal a total of 6 points of damage. We will pitch a blue to activate FaB. On our turn, we will still play that Double Strike Phoenix Flame Double Strike line, then end the turn with an Emberblade. So if our sink below had gone well, we would be getting 4 more points of damage this turn, but because it didn't, we get 2 fewer points of damage, and I believe it would have been best to just split the difference and keep the Lava Burst. But at the same time, our Lava Burst stays in our deck, which gives our Mask of the Passing Links a target in the late game if we need one. So there is validity to this line as well. Assassin games can be very, very tough to navigate, especially long ones, because you don't know which decisions are going to snowball 10 turns from now. In the aggro mirrors, it's very easy to see, well, 2 turns ago I did this, and now I can't do this as a result. But in these long games, it's hard to know. We draw into an absolute clunker of a hand. We find an Art of War, and know that our Spring Tunic will have 3 counters on it on our next turn. So we're happy to arsenal that Art of War. We feel good about our next turn, but at least going into our next turn, what an absolute disaster to reinforce the lines with no target. But at least we can block this Plunder the Poor with our Warmonger's Diplomacy for the full 3. The non-attack action of Warmonger's Diplomacy gets around the double Spider's Bite. Arakni here playing out a Spreading Plague, so we are going to take an additional 2 points of damage from this Blood Rot token. That's totally fine. On our turn, we will just attack with Emberblade, pitching our 2, reinforce the lines, and arsenaling our Art of War. Because we have our Tunic available, we are not concerned about Leave No Witnesses or Command and Conquer sniping our arsenal. While we would really love for this Art of War to survive Arakni's turn, we at least know that we will get some value from it. Arakni attacking with a dagger into Annihilate the Armed. Whatever. The great thing about this matchup for FaB is that we really don't care about the top of our deck, as long as we are keeping cards in hand and in arsenal. And because Arakni is not playing out a Leave No Witnesses or a Command and Conquer, we are going to have a very strong turn. So the question here is, do we want to lead with this Art of War, or do we want to save this Art of War to play on Snatch? Arakni still has the Shriek Razors to block with. I am going to take an aggressive line and play the Snatch, expecting that Arakni will block exactly 4. Then we Snapdragons the Snatch, we use our Spring Tunic to play Art of War. And because we have the Blaze Headlong, which gets go again from Snatch, and the Lava Vein Loyalty, which gets go again from Blaze Headlong, I'm going to take a second aggressive line and banish my blue Brand with Cinderclaw to the Art of War. If we draw into more zero-cost reds, that's just a nuts turn. If we draw into another blue, then we were benefited by not having kept a second blue in hand. Arakni does block exact damage, so we are going to get to draw a card from the Snatch in addition to the 2 cards we draw from Art of War. And we will see what exactly we're going to draw. Drawing into a blue, another zero-cost red, and a Command and Conquer. We have an interesting line available to us. Because we don't have our Snapdragons available, we are not going to break Mask of the Pouncing Lynx this turn. We want to save it. The interesting line we have available to us is whether we want to gamble on Arakni blocking this Rising Resentment. Because if Arakni doesn't block the Rising Resentment, we can banish our Command and Conquer to it to attack with our Emberblade and our CNC. We don't need to make this choice now. What we're going to do from here is attack with our Blaze Headlong, then attack with our Lava Vein Loyalty, then attack with our Emberblade, then attack with the Rising Resentment. We want to throw our Resentment as late into the turn as we can, because if Arakni overblocks like they are doing now, then our Resentment is more likely to hit. And that's what Arakni is doing, just throwing the entire hand at us as soon as they can. Weird decision, but it works great for us. Here, we will attack with the Rising Resentment before the Emberblade. I think this is fine. If this is a Sink Below in Arakni's arsenal, I believe they would have used it already. It's possible that we should have thrown the Emberblade first to see if we get a defense reaction out of Arakni, but as it is, this Rising Resentment is going to hit, so we are just going to have an absolutely massive turn, because now we can attack with our Emberblade and our CNC. So we'll attack with the Emberblade. Once this connects, we will pick up and play our Phoenix Flame, and finish the turn with our CNC. There is an argument here for breaking Pouncing Lynx to find Double Strike. Double Strike does get our Shuko trigger, so it is worth 5 points of damage, but considering how massively far ahead we are in this game at this point, I'm happy to save Pouncing Lynx to look for more damage. CNC pushes 7, we get a Spreading Plague out of Arakni's arsenal, which, considering how little we block in this matchup, may actually have done them a favor. Arakni just buying back the Whisperers and passing a turn to us. We have 2 yellows in hand, as well as a Soaring Strike and an E-Strike. I think it's fine to play the aggressive line here. We can attack with our Soaring Strike by pitching Salt the Wound. If Soaring Strike hits, we banish our E-Strike. We can then play it and bottom our Brand with Cinderclaw to draw a card and have the go again. If the Soaring Strike doesn't hit, then we just finish up the turn with Emberblade for 3, Phoenix Flame for 1, maybe break Mask of the Pouncing Lynx in order to threaten more cards out of Arakni and arsenal our E-Strike. Choosing a wildly different line. Let's see exactly what I'm looking to do with this. I don't believe at this point that this is the correct line. Okay, I see what I'm doing here. So we're going to follow this E-Strike with an Ember Blade, then a Phoenix Flame. We should be breaking Mask of the Pouncing Lynx here to find Lava Burst. At this point, we do get to pick up and play our Phoenix Flame, but the Phoenix Flame is an easy block with the Whisperers, and I would like to get my Pouncing Lynx value at this point. Arakni only has the one card left in hand. Thankfully, we do get the Shuko bump over the top of the Whisperers. Overall, I don't think this was the correct line. I would have liked to throw the Soaring Strike and have the E-Strike in Arsenal rather than the line I'm taking here, where we also are just getting 5 from our Pouncing Lynx. We're so far ahead in this game that really nothing I do from this point matters. I don't believe we can lose from this point unless I have a brain hemorrhage. But of course on Talishar, the point really isn't to win or lose. The point is to improve our play, and I think that last turn was a bit sloppy. We should have been looking to get that Soaring Strike value when it pairs so well with E-Strike. Or we get an Arsenal, which is great too. As it is, we are going to play out this hand. We are going to pitch our Reinforce the Line to attack with Mounting Anger. If the Mounting Anger connects, we get to give our Phoenix Flame 1 extra point of power. If it doesn't, we'll just attack with the Phoenix Flame anyway. It looks like this Mounting Anger will connect, so we will throw the Phoenix Flame for 2 more points of damage, then pass the turn. On our next turn, our Spring Tunic goes up to 3 counters. And maybe we just win the game from there. Draw into another Art of War. Sack the Shifty. Again, not something we need to block. We are extremely far ahead on life. We can fire off an Art of War with our Spring Tunic. We don't care about the top card of our deck. Looking at our hand here, I can get behind the decision to lead with Ronin Renegade. If this gets a block from Arakni, then we Art of War damage over the top. I am fine to banish this Salt the Wound and keep my Mounting Anger. That isn't the play I make, and I'm actually rewarded for it. I like what I did in this game much more. Salt the Wound will pay for Emberblade. We then get to follow that with Branded Cinderclaw, Phoenix Flame, and a Shuko Lava Burst. Just a very, very good turn from us, and Spring Tunic really pulling its weight in this matchup, where both of our Art of War turns have been nuts off the back of that one additional resource, paying for the Art of War and letting us banish something that just ended up being unnecessary or expensive or weak in the situation. Phoenix Flame here will come in for 2, take Arakni to 4, and our Lava Burst comes in for 7. Arakni does not have the block and packs it in. I wanted to show this game because everything came together for us very, very well. I'm not going to deny that. We drew very well. None of our hands, except for that one with the Warmonger's Diplomacy and 2 Reinforced Lines, ever felt clunky. And our Art of Wars always lined up with our Spring Tunic. So we definitely drew well. I don't want to discount the effect of that on the outcome of this game, but we can also see how we benefited from boarding for a long game where we wouldn't block. If we had boarded assuming that we would be racing or taking damage, and we had brought in our Flamescale Furnace, this game would have gone much worse for us. Or if we were playing on 60 cards and this game went a bit longer and fatigue was a real option for Arakni, we might have had to block more than we did. But we boarded for a long game. We boarded for a game where our opponent would not be putting much pressure on us, and we were rewarded for that. Uzuri is a bit of a different beast. Uzuri lists, and especially redline Uzuri lists, deal more damage than Arakni deals on average because they play a lot more natural go again. But this Arakni never really dealt more than 6 points of damage in a turn, and was never pressuring our hand or our arsenal. And they certainly have the tools to do that, but because they are also fat stacking their deck, those tools are less available. So this game really shows the advantage of playing this full aggressive list into Assassin, where we don't block, we don't arsenal, and we set up for these big turns, and then just kill our opponent. I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope it was informational in some way. If you have been waiting for an Arakni game and you're excited to finally see one, hit that like button for me. My comments are always open if you have any questions or feedback for me, and otherwise I will see you back here tomorrow for more daily FaB gameplay. Until then, take care.